So, agenda of today's session, we'll do a quick recap of the last few sessions, what we have discussed, and we'll start new verses of chapter 2. Then we'll have a mantra meditation, and at end we'll have Q&A session. So, agenda, recap of the last few sessions. So, first point to discuss, today's agenda. So, in the first chapter, Arjuna was in great dilemma. He was not able to decide whether I should fight or not to fight. So, in verse 24, at the request of Arjuna, Krishna drew up the chariot in between both the armies, informed the Bhishma and Drona. And Arjuna saw he has to fight with his elders, relatives, and his teachers. And he went into emotional collapse and he gave multiple reasons not to fight. So, first reason Arjuna gave in terms of compassion. So he overwhelmed with compassion. He said, because of this compassion, I think I'm not going to get anything from this war. So why I should fight or not fight? Then he said, no enjoyment after killing relatives and friends. Third, worried about sinful reactions. So if I kill my teachers, grandfathers, so I will get sin. मुझे पाप लगेगा. So fourth reason he said, disturbance social orders. So he's saying in this war, so many people will get die. So what about their families? So thinking about the social consequences, he said we are not going to achieve anything from this war. Then you're talking about Kula Dharma and Kshatriya Dharma. And finally, because of these various reasons or arguments, then he went into indecision. He think this war is nothing but a lose-lose situations. I'm not going to achieve anything from this. So with this, the chapter 1 ends without any conclusion then. Chapter 2, contents of Gita summarize, considered as a foundation for the spiritual life, because in this chapter, Krishna begins his teaching and it is considered as the summary of entire Bhagavad Gita. So, whatever topics Bhagavad Gita touches in the later chapters, that all has been covered in chapter 2. So, it gives the summary of all the key teachings which will found in the later chapters. The first lesson which we have learned in chapter 2 is about who is Supreme Lord. Lord Krishna. Why? Because Lord Krishna is the supreme personality Godhead. Krishna means all attractive. He is attracting not only human beings, but all other species also, animals, birds of Vrindavan, all are getting attracted to Lord. And by definition itself, Lord is defined as one who possesses all the six opulences in the fullest. What is first opulence? Beauty. So, Lord beauty is perfect and incomparable beauty with anyone exists in the entire universe. About knowledge. So, absolute knowledge of everything. Because of that, Lord presented Bhagavad Gita, fame. Uh, Lord Krishna being supreme and eternal fame which he is carrying. Fourth is about wealth, Aishwarya, complete ownership of everything. That's why he's God. Strength, about unlimited power, which Lord has exhibited. Renunciation, in terms of complete detachment from everything. While we'll find there many examples in the society, they may possess some of these qualities, all these six qualities, to some partial level. Some may say, I am the most richest person, but he cannot claim I am the most beautiful person, famous person, I am the most strengthful person. No, because this specific is held by only by Lord and Lord Krishna. So others may possess some of these qualities partially. Only Krishna possesses all these six qualities in the fullest and unlimited forms simultaneously, which has no comparison. So that's why in all the Vedic literatures, it is mentioned everywhere Krishna is the supreme personate God, and he is the supreme God. Then, second lesson, which we learn in chapter 2 about Guru, why there is absolute need for a spiritual guide in our life to progress spiritually. In 2.7, we have seen in that dilemma situation, Arjuna asked to Lord Krishna, please tell me what is my dharma, what is my duty in that bewildered state of mind. So Arjuna, being a Kshatri, he's forgetting his natural duty to fight with the enemies. And because he's forgetting his dharma, he was not able to figure out the solution by his own. He tried to find out the solution by his own intelligence, experience, ideas, but could not come to any conclusion. Then finally, what he did? Ultimately, he surrenders to Lord Krishna and he said, Lord, I accept you as my guru. I have become your Shishya, means I have become your disciple. Please tell me what is good for me. and I will be following your instructions, because when you surrender to any guru, we should be ready and open to follow their instructions. So in today's time also, it is very common to get confused in so many things in our day-to-day activities. Hence, we all want directions and guidance in life. So what is the best way to get guidance and direction in life? Bhagavad Gita, because Arjuna has shown us the right path we should follow in state of confusion. So we should also take guidance in our life for any problem, whether it's material problem, any other problem. We should take guidance from Bhagavad Gita. And when you talk about Bhagavad Gita means what are the instructions Lord has mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So we should take guidance from Lord directly from Bhagavad Gita or from his representative. So we have already discussed these topics in our previous sessions. So let's have a quick classroom discussions to reflect what we have understood. Like when we are in state of confusion in our very common in today's time. So these are the common ways generally mostly people seek guidance through social media or through social circles, means through their family, friends, they take the guidance, or through spiritual sources. When you talk about spiritual sources, it could be Bhagavad Gita or his representative, like people who's following the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So our point of discussion is in state of confusion, which is the best way to seek guidance. So why we should take guidance from, it is mentioned among this, like following the path of Arjuna, we should also take guidance from the spiritual point of view in terms of Bhagavad Gita and his representative. So why we should take guidance from Lord and his representatives? So what is your comments and thoughts on this? So you can unmute yourself, you can give your answers, or you can go to the chat box also and you can type your answers. Among these various options, why we should take guidance from Lord, from Bhagavad Gita and his representative? Why this is considered best option to take guidance in life? Please feel free to go to the chat box. You can unmute yourself. Don't worry, nobody. Don't worry, nobody is going to judge you by your answers, because this is the best way we can learn, because we already discussed all these points. So you can share your learnings or your comments about this question. What do you think? Why this seeking guidance from the spiritual path is considered as the best path? So I could see some answers coming in chat box. So Akshita, she's she has written so that we can walk in right path in life. So it means spiritual books or Vedic literatures can tell us what is the right path in our life. Okay, correct. Ramya, it teaches dharma and adharma. Okay, so this good to know. Like at least we have started accepting only spiritual or Vedic literatures can tell you what is the right thing, righteous thing we should perform in a life or not. So dharma and adharma. Margdarshan. Okay, correct. We should take guidance from God for the living the life with the dharma. Very correct. I'll wait for a few more seconds. So if anyone wants to share, please feel free to share your answers. Okay. We will know exactly way of living as per the Lord. Okay. Thank you, everyone. So let's see. So why we should take guidance from spiritual path? Because Guru and Sadhu speaks on the basis of Shastra, on the basis of Vedic literatures like Bhagavad Gita, and a true spiritual person never speaks based on his personal speculations or opinions or ideas. Unlike today's social media is flooded with opinions, their own opinions. But when you talk about Shastra, Vedic literature, it means the statement of authority. So that is Shastra. In this our course also, what we are discussing, yeah, we are not discussing my ideas, my opinions. We are discussing what Lord has given in Bhagavad Gita. So focus is on the Vedic literature, Bhagavad Gita. So if you take guidance from Guru, Sadhu, they give the guidance based on the Shastras and Vedic literatures like Bhagavad Gita. And Bhagavad Gita is nothing but the instructions of Lord. Then the third lesson which you have learned in chapter 2 is about our real identity, whether we are body or we are more than body, or that is we are soul. And we have discussed in detail from verses 12 to 30 about the soul, characteristics of soul, like soul is eternal and permanent, unlike body. Then 2.13, Lord says that this body is constantly changes every moment from child to youth to old age. But our real identity, that is soul, that is eternal, it remains the same. It never changes. And the time of death, what happened? The soul leaves that particular body and it enters into a not into a different body. Then we have seen all living entities are changing body continuously in this birth to the new birth. And there is a continuous cycle of birth and death, transmigration going on. Then we have discussed about how we can perceive this concept of soul in terms of its size. What is the size of the soul? What is its position? Then we have discussed on the characteristics of the soul. Like what are the main attributes or the characteristics of soul? So key characteristics of soul, like soul is not born, soul never dies. Unlike body, the soul is eternal. So body is temporary and destructible, whereas soul is permanent and indestructible. It means soul already exists before birth also, in this birth also, and in future new birth also. In further verses, we have understood about characteristics of soul in terms of soul cannot be cut by any weapons. It cannot be burned by fire. It cannot be moistened by water. It cannot be dried by air. Because soul is non-physical. That's why it cannot be destroyed by any forces, whether it is weapon, fire, water, or air. So it cannot destroy what is non-physical. Means what is metaphysical, which is eternal. Soul is eternal. Then further, soul is invisible. It is very difficult to perceive soul through our senses, from our eyes. No, because it is not physical object which we can experience or which we can see from our eyes. It is invisible. It is inconceivable. Means it is difficult to accept. So we can only accept through the authorities of Shastras. It is immutable. It is unchangeable. So these are the characteristics of soul. So all these qualities shows that soul is beyond physical and these mental categories. Then further we have discussed about the evidences of soul, how to accept this concept of soul through direct and indirect methods. Direct methods means the difference between a living body and a dead body. What is the difference? So living body has a soul and dead body as no soul is present. So consciousness is missing. So that we have discussed as a direct evidence, as a proof of soul's existence. The indirect experience, we have seen some examples also in terms of reincarnation, out of body experience, and near death experience. Then we have discussed about our body. Our body is made up of three parts: gross body, subtle body, and soul. So, gross body consists of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And gross body is the physical body which we can see and touch. So, it is something material, it is physical thing. When you talk about subtle body, so subtle bodies includes my mind, intelligence, and false ego. Can we see directly from our eyes? No. So, Subtle body is also material, but it is very subtle in nature. So it is more finer than the gross body. And finally, we have soul, that is eternity, knowledge, bliss. So Atma, soul, it is spiritual and eternal. So it is distinct. So it is different from both gross body and the subtle body. But if we think we are only a body, our understanding is incomplete and we are not very considered as a very intelligent person. No matter how much material knowledge or how much education we have, we may think we are a graduate person or postgraduate person or maybe a doctorate person or maybe I'm a CA, engineering. Yet that doesn't mean that we fully understand our own self and life if we are don't have this complete knowledge about this soul. So in 2.11 verse, Prabhupada has mentioned what is the actual meaning of knowledge. So knowledge means to know matter and spirit and the control of both. So a person who has this complete knowledge is considered a very learned person. So who has this both knowledge? What knowledge? About matter and spirit. When you talk about matter, what it means is about the physical substance which is having a form and is visible, which we can perceive through our material senses. It is measurable also. Similarly, when you talk about spirit, spiritual thing, it is non-physical substance. Like we cannot see soul by our senses. So it is non-visible, it can only be experienced, it cannot be measured. So Prabhupada writes in purport, the knowledge actually means to know about these both subjects, about matter and spirit. So our body consists of both gross body and the soul. So our body has a gross body and the soul. So we should focus and we should take care both of them. For gross body, to maintain this physical body, we have to take education, then we have to get into a job, we have to do some business, we have to work, or we have to do maybe we have to do some physical exercise to maintain this physical body healthy. That is fine, that is fine to maintain this gross body, we can continue it. But if one person thinks that life is only about earning money or maintaining this body or enjoying this body, then that is not true intelligence. We must always remember that our true real identity is soul, and the main goal of life is what? To fulfill the spiritual needs, and we should use this body to achieve that so that we can satisfy our real identity, that is soul. And when you talk about spiritual need means engaging more and more, engaging this gross body or material body more and more in Krishna consciousness activities for the pleasure of Lord. Only then we can make this, we can be very happy in this life, regardless of any situation and any material facilities which we have in our life. And also, when we take care of both things, my gross body and my spiritual body, means about my soul, then only we can be more content and happy in our life, and also will be adding some meaning to our life and will make it more useful. Otherwise, if we just work day in day out on the bodily platform, it means we are not using the full potential of the body which has been received to us, in utilizing this to fulfill our spiritual progress also. Besides this, cross body needs. So, Srila Prabhupada used this analogy to help people understand this concept of spiritual needs besides these physical needs. So, a difference between the soul and the material body is in a simple, practical way. Example like you have a cage and a bird. So, imagine a bird inside a cage. So, the bird is the soul and the cage is the body. So, soul is temporarily confined in this material body, just like a bird is in a cage. So, if we just take care of a gross body, the soul cannot function well. Similarly, like this lady, if you see in this picture, this lady, she is polishing the outside. She is taking good care of cage only, not for the bird, and she is polishing her golden cage, but forgotten all about the poor creature of this bird when the bird itself is sick or hungry, that urgently need attention. So if bird is cared for properly, then it can be more happy. So in our case also, like if cage is a material body, the soul is the actual bird. So if you want to be real happy, if you want to have real happiness in life, you have to take good care of soul. And how we can make our soul more satisfied and more happy, only through spiritual activities. When you connect in spiritual activities, so our true happiness comes from realizing the soul's spiritual needs or soul's spiritual nature, not just about material enjoyment. So, spirit soul needs must be fulfilled. Simply by cleansing the cage of the bird, one does not satisfy the bird. One must actually know the needs of the bird himself. So, we being a physical body, we have to take care of the body. That is okay, but we should not ignore or completely forget about the needs of the soul. So we should do something every day to connect this soul to the spiritual activities. Then quick classroom discussion. This we already discussed in detail also. How this knowledge of soul can benefit us. Because till now in various sessions we have discussed about our real identity, soul, we are not body. So conceptually we have understood like our real identity is soul. But now practically in our day-to-day life, how this knowledge of soul can benefit us. Because it is very basic question everyone will ask. See, I have this knowledge, but how I can apply this knowledge or how I can get benefit from this knowledge. So you can go to the chat box, you can unmute yourself. Please feel free to share your thoughts, like how this knowledge of soul can benefit us in your life. Anyone who wants to share his thoughts, they can unmute themselves, or you can share your answers in chat box also. We have discussed in detail in the previous sessions also about the soul, how this knowledge of soul can benefit us. Let me check the chat box also. Okay. So one answer, by the knowledge of soul, we can connect with the spiritual energy. Okay, correct. Others, your thoughts or comments on this? Jessica Patni, we become we become more consciousness in terms of how we live our life. Very correct. Rashri, once you realize the soul is indestructible, as Krishna said, sorry, weapons cannot share it, nor can fire burn it. The fear of death and loss vanishes. Very correct. Thank you for sharing. To know the real meaning of life and the soul is eternal, so that living life with the consciousness. Very correct. Thank you. Others who has not still replied, they can share their answers. You develop samatmam, evenness of mind. You stop riding the roller coaster of extreme joy in success and deep despair in failure, because you know the real you is untouched by these external events. Very correct. Thank you for sharing. Any other answers or comments? You no longer bound by labels like poor, failed, or old. Your identity with the infinite rather than the temporary. Okay, correct. So thank you everyone for sharing your answers. So let's see. So these are some points which I have realized and I'm sharing. Like if you have this knowledge of this soul concept, then ultimately if you see we all are seeking for the peace of mind, because unless we have peace of mind, we cannot be happy in the life. So peace of mind is a basic on which we get happiness. So this soul concept, because give you the better peace of mind, because if we identify ourselves with the body and the mind, even the small problem in our life, like in terms of insult, in terms of some emotional something, or in terms of success, failure, in terms of getting some disease. So all these things will shake you in your life. And when you have this knowledge of this soul in the life, you'll be able to act wisely, and you're not able to react to the situations. So you'll be a better person to react or to respond to the situations, because you know ultimately life is uncertain, life is designed as such. Success and failure is going to continue like this only. So you'll be more emotionally balanced person. Second, about the life goals, because if our basic principle itself is wrong in the life, certainly we are going to set the wrong goals in the life. Because unless people know their real identity, because otherwise whatever education we have already studied in the material world. We are body. Our real identification is body, which is not actually. So Bhagavad Gita tells you a real identity is soul, because unless we have this knowledge of our real identity, how will we know what is a real goal of the life should be? Because of this misconception, because of this wrong information, most of the people in the life, they set the wrong goals in their life actually. So now we have this knowledge of the actual knowledge about real self identity, so it will help us to set the real goal of life. Otherwise, what happen in today's time, due to absence of this knowledge, most of the people, they are setting the wrong temporary goals in their life, and to achieve that goals, they are ready to compromise to any level. Like they are ready to adjust or compromise on their character also, their values also, to achieve them, because there is a very common mindset in today's world. Like most people define life success or goals as only material achievements, like how much in terms of monetary terms, in terms of how much money you earn, and which area your flat is located, and which car you drive, like BMW, Mercedes, and about the vacations, how many foreign trips you make in a year, about your assets, how much is your portfolio in terms of uh, in share market, in terms of gold, in terms of land investments, and in terms of your positions, like you're holding which position in your business or maybe in your working life, like see, I want to become CEO of an organization, I want to become CFO of an organization, I want to become a head of the department, and about the name and the fame, and just to get name, popularity, fame, seeking for US citizenship, then in personal life, beautiful wife, rich husbands, and all the comforts. So most people, if you note, think that life means collecting these four things only in terms of money, position, name, fame, family. But if you see, all these things are actually related to my body only. And we have discussed this body itself is temporary. So whatever we earn at the bodily platform level, everything will vanish at the time of death. But due to absence of knowledge, people think these are the main achievements in the life. So they don't know these all are the temporary things, because your houses can get old. Money will be lost today and tomorrow. Your power also changes. Maybe today I'm the CEO of an organization. I'll not remain CEO throughout my this life and my next life also. Not possible. Your fame also fades, because all these things are related to body. That's why quite often after achieving that, after achieving this also, after a lot of hard work, still if you ask the people, they say still we are not very satisfied or still we are not very happy. Why? Because we are missing the most important element in our life. That is what? Take care of soul. Because we are like that old lady, we are just taking care of the cage, not the bird inside the cage. So if you just focus on these material goals and achievements, so like your old lady, we are just taking care of the cage. What about the bird? About the soul? So what we are doing to take care of the soul, to get the unlimited happiness and satisfaction in your life? Then one may ask this question, so does it mean we should not have any material goals in our life? You should focus only on the spiritual activities, or we should leave everything and perform spirituality? No, that doesn't mean you should completely ignore the spiritual aspects of your life. So you can continue with your material needs. There is nothing wrong to have that aspirations to become a particular position or to earn a money. There's nothing wrong in that. But you should never think this is the only life, and never ignore the spiritual aspects of your life. And you should never neglect your spiritual needs. And what is the spiritual needs? About the soul. So you should focus on your material things also, but you should never ignore or neglect your spiritual needs, which ultimately can make you happy. And how you can fulfill their spiritual needs? By connecting your soul to the Supreme Soul, to Lord Krishna. And what are the various ways we have? Like attending Bhagavad Gita sessions every Sunday, and not only once in a week, uh, trying to learn Bhagavad Gita. So in the weekdays, every day try to remove some time, read Bhagavad Gita, and not just about reading, understanding, but start following the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. Then we always talk about Chantra meditation. So you should focus, control your mind through Chantra meditation, by which you can connect to Lord. Then try to associate with the spiritual people so that you can take the guidance from them. At home, you should do some puja to Lord Krishna. Vacations, try to plan vacations to the holy places, Vrindavan, we have Varanasi, so many things. Make a habit to visit Lord Krishna temples or ISKCON temples near to a place. Once in a week, try to visit that place. So this way, these are various mediums by which we can satisfy the inside, the cage, the bird inside us, not only about the cage. So we should be able to spend, or we should be able to justify uh, our proper need in terms of spirituality also. So we should not just focus on material things, but spiritual things. Ultimately, for whom? For us only, to get unlimited happiness, satisfaction, and content in our life. So our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, most of the time, so many books he has mentioned this subject of soul. So if we all in a society accept this basic fact that my real identity is soul and not body, and we slowly we try to act as per the teaching of Bhagavad Gita, then if you note, the most of the root of the most human conflicts will disappear, and we'll be able to live very peacefully and happy in this world. Because if you see throughout the history, we have witnessed many wars between countries, including World War One, World War Two, and today's time you have seen in the last few years what is happening. Today also the news are going on. This country is going to attack this country. And not only these wars, we have seen so many violence in the name of religion, in name of national identity, or in name of social divisions. So so many people have died in all these wars or in this violence, because everyone is thinking I belong to a particular nation, I belong to a particular religion, I belong to a particular society. So the root of the conflict is misidentification that I am body, I am not spirit soul. So when people think I'm body, they naturally think my body is different from others person body. So you and I are separate people. Like the people, American, they're thinking I'm American. Other people thinking I'm German, I'm Japanese, I'm Indian. Religion wise, people are thinking I'm Hindu, I'm Muslim. But all our Vedic literatures, they say Vasudev Kutumbaka. The whole world is one family on the knowledge of soul, not at the body. So the knowledge of soul can help us unite the world at a common level. Otherwise, people have fought in the past and will continue to fight in future as well, which we are noting in the last few years. So this simple truth, if we understand about that we are soul, we are not body, so many problems can be solved, not only in personal life, but in society and in this entire world as such also. So in conclusion, we are not this body which we see in the mirror. We are Atma, soul, the real driver of the bodily car. Then the next lesson we have learned about tolerance. Lord says, O son of Kunti, O Arjuna, the non-permanent appearance and happiness or distress and the disappearance in due course are like the appearance and distress of the winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception. Oh, this Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So Lord is saying this world is world of duality. So life will always have up and downs in everyone's life. We will get some success, failure. There would be happiness, sadness sometime. There would be praise, criticism. Sometime we'll be very healthy, health wise. Sometime we'll be sick, illness. So it cannot be avoided because being part of this material world, which is designed as such, as a duality, we cannot avoid that. So it is very foolishness to think we can escape all these dualities, all these problems in our life. But the good thing, Bhagavad Gita tells you the real face of this material world. It tells you these problems are there, world is uncertain, but it is everything is temporary. So how to handle these temporary problems? You have to rise above this. It means instead of not accepting, you should tolerate it. Just when why we should tolerate, considering it is just a matter of time. Maybe I am not very healthy today, maybe I'm sick, maybe in the coming time I will get back to my health. So we should tolerate, considering it's just matter of time. And why we should tolerate? Just keep going, focus on your goals. So goals, so why we should tolerate? For some higher goals. And when we talk about goals being your real identity, goals not just related to body but soul also. Then further, we have learned about Karma Kand. Last session we have discussed in detail about these verses 31 to 38. What is Karma Kand? Activities. In 2.31, Lord is saying, concerning your specific duty as a Kshatri, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. So there is no need for hesitation. So Lord is saying, you're a Kshatri, it is your duty to fight for religious principle. So you should not avoid or hesitate to fight. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, like being a Kshatri, it is your prescribed duty for a Kshatri to protect citizens from all difficulties, to apply violence for law and order, and rule according to religious principles. So Bhagavad Gita is not touching about the duty for all human beings. Being a Kshatri, this is your Swadharma, this is your duty. Similarly, all of us, whether we are student, whether we are working professionals, housewife, retired people, we all have some swadharma, duty which we should perform in our life. Like being a student, our duty is to learn sincerely and acquire knowledge, and don't kill time on the social media and other useless things. Similarly, for the working professional, you have to perform your duty diligently. You have to take good care of your family and good care of your health also, because many times we ignore while working our health. Then being a housewife, take good care of your household and family things. And being a retired person, you have to focus on health, spiritual growth, and all those things, and keep less family attachment. So Lord is saying not only to Arjuna, being a Kshatri, Lord is passing this message. Being all of us in a different stage of life, we all have some swadharma, some material duties which we have to perform. Like being a student, I have to study. Being a working professional, I have to work very hard to maintain my family. Being a housewife, I have to take good care of my house. And retired person, you good care of health, spiritual good, everything. But our Vedic literature says this material duty is fine. But what is a supreme duty for all humanity? When you talk about humanity, means human beings, not the other creature. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the advanced knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, sixth verse, it is mentioned the supreme occupational dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service, like about bhakti onto the transcendental Lord, Lord Shri Krishna. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. So, unless we perform this bhakti to Lord Krishna, we cannot expect to have a complete satisfaction in our life. And that bhakti should be unmotivated. It should not be a business. If you give me this, then I only perform bhakti. So we all in our life, we all have material duties to perform. Like as a student, we have discussed as a working businessman, housewife. But we should not forget that the supreme duty of all living being is to devotional service to Lord Krishna, means bhakti to Lord Krishna. Therefore, regardless of whatever positions we have in our life, one should set aside some time every day for bhakti to fulfill our spiritual needs because our real identity is soul. So we have to do some spiritual practices every day. Like every day we eat something to take care of our body. So every day we should remove some time to take care of our spiritual needs, such as reading Bhagavad Gita, chanting, and visiting temples. So that way will satisfy the spiritual needs of the soul, and also that is the occupational dharma, that is the supreme duty for all humanity. So we have responsibility not just related to family only, but to Supreme Lord also. So that we should not ignore that. Then in 2.37, Lord is saying, if you fight, if either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, like if you get killed in this war, you will get Swarga. Or if you get win or you become victorious, then you enjoy this earthly kingdom. Then you'll become the king of this kingdom and you can enjoy this kingdom. Therefore, get up and determination and fight. So Lord is saying, if you die, you gain heavenly planet like Swarga, and if you win, you gain a right. You rule this kingdom uh, on this earth. So either way, you will not lose nothing, you lose nothing. So Krishna says, Arjuna, both case, if you fight, the outcome would be beneficial for you. Then 2.38, Lord is saying, fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by doing so, you should never incur sin. So, previous verses, Lord is talking about the karma kanda activities. If you perform this activity, you will be benefited in that way. Now, Lord is talking about some selfless work or selfless attitude. That is, Lord is introducing nishkam karma. By doing so, you won't get any sin. So that we have discussed about Nishkam Karma. So in the previous Lord is talking about Karma Kanda activities. Now Lord is introducing Nishkam Karma. So what is Nishkam Karma? Any action which you perform without selfish attachment to the results. So without focusing on the results, you perform your action, and you perform your action considered as your duty, and you become stable or equipoised whether success or failure comes. And ultimately, if you work for the pleasure of Lord Shri Krishna, that is known as Nishkam Karma Yoga. So it means you should not uh, uh, means you should identify your duty, you should give your best endeavor, but don't be attached to the results. Accept the outcome, accept the outcome very calmly. Means when success comes, don't become very arrogant. When failure comes, don't get broken. So because both are temporary. So Nishkam Karma means any action which you are performing else selflessly. And the topmost is when you are doing some actions for Lord Krishna. So that is known as for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. That is the topmost Nishkam Karma. So in Bhagavad Gita, this says transcendental consciousness Arjuna. Arjuna was not ready to fight, but after hearing the Bhagavad Gita, he he become ready to fight. So everything is performed for the sake of Krishna pleasure. So Krishna wanted this war, so he performed that activity without considering of happiness, distress, profit, loss, victory, defeat. Applying to Arjuna case, fighting for the sake of fighting because Lord Krishna desires this battle. So if Lord wants, I'll perform this action. That is a topmost Nishkam karma. On the other hand, what is the um, karma kanda, or which are the material activities which you do just to satisfy our own senses, or for own self-interest. Like Duryodhana, he was acting for his own sense gratification, either in goodness or in passion. Result, one is subject to reaction, good or bad. So in Nishkam Karma, you are not attached to the result, so you're not subject to any good or bad reaction. But if you engage in just in material activities, you will get the results or subject to good or bad. So if it is good, you enjoy. If it is bad, you suffer. Then 2.40, Lord is saying, in this endeavor, which endeavor? On the spiritual practices, on the bhakti. So in this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution. So there is no loss or diminution, and little advancement on this part protect one you from the most danger type of fear. So Lord is talking about spiritual activities. Even a little advancement can consider a big success. And Lord here is talking about the most dangerous type of fears. So, what is the most dangerous type of fears? In Vedic, in Bhagavad Gita is mentioned as the cycle of continuous birth and death. We have seen in 2.13, the soul leaves one body and transmitted to another body. So, this continuous cycle in birth and death is continuously going on. So, here, when Lord is talking about something most dangerous type of fear means cycle of continuous birth and death. Now, a quick classroom discussion. Why there is no loss in any spiritual activities? This also we have discussed in previous session. Lord is saying whatever you achieve in the material activities, that is temporary. But if you perform a little activities on the spiritual level, there is no loss. So why there is no loss in any spiritual activities? You can go to the chat box and type your answers, or you can unmute yourself and share your comments. Don't hesitate then, as I again repeating, don't think people are anyone is going to judge you based on your answers. Don't worry on that front. Just share your thoughts, comments. What do you think? Why there is no loss in any spiritual activities? Quick, quick. We have to finish this quickly. Okay. Because we can gain a knowledge about life and death. There is no loss. Just we lost fear on that. Okay, correct. Any other answers? Because it gives mental peace and shows the facts and clarity and just a second and clarity of life. Okay, even little step towards Lord is progress. Okay, the loss is not in the activity; it is in your expectations. Krishna teaches nishkam karma, acting without desire for the fruits. To True spiritual activities is own rewards. Okay, thank you. Spiritual activities are not physical or material things. The activities are consciousness and the knowing the dharma and the soul has no death. Okay, thank you. Because it is for the soul and not for the body. Okay. Thank you everyone for share answers. Most of you have given the right answer because as we have discussed, our body made of two things, cross body and the spiritual thing, that is the soul. So activities which you perform at the material level, at a bodily platform level, because body itself is temporary. So anything related to body is also temporary. So that's why there is always loss. Once you die, you leave everything here only. But in terms of spiritual activities, any activity which you perform for the soul, for connecting to Lord Shri Krishna, because soul is not temporary, soul is spiritual, eternal, and so any activities which you perform, spiritual activities which you perform, that is also eternal. That's why there is no loss. So whatever spiritual activities which I perform in this life, I carry it forward to my next life. So and also there is no side effects. Like in Nishkam Karma Yoga, if you perform some good activities, आपको पुण्य मिलेगा. If you perform some sinful activities, आपको पाप मिलेगा. But when you work at the Nishkam Karma Yoga and your motive is just to please pleasure of the Lord, then you are not subject to any love, any good or bad reactions. So that's why any activity which you perform at the spiritual level is permanent. It means in this lifetime, if suppose I have given just 2 hours or maybe some number of hours in this lifetime for spiritual activities, I will carry that spiritual activities benefit in my next life. So it is carry forward. Prabhupada writes in the purport of 2.07, don't waste this human life. He is a miserly man who does not solve the problems of life as a human and who thus quits the world like the cats and dogs without understanding the science of self realization. This human form of life is the most valuable assets for the living entity who can utilize it for solving the problems of life. Therefore, one who does not utilize this opportunity properly is a miser. Miser means conjures. So, Prabhupada is raising one very important point in terms of the real problems of life. So when you talk about real problem of life, it means why it is real? Because it is common for all. When it's common for all means not only for human beings, for all the living entities. Whether it's my human beings are there, my animals are there, birds are there. For everyone, this is a common problem. So in a Vedic literature, in Bhagavad Gita is mentioned the real problem of life in the material world for all human being, all human entity is to solve the question of birth, death, old age, and disease. And further, Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter, it is mentioned one who can perceive birth, death, old age, and disease as the real problems of a life is in actual knowledge. And in contrast, if you see now, this is a real problem of life. But when you talk about science, technology, they never touches these subjects. So science and technology, they always turning to temporary means to escape rather than truly solving this real problem of lives. Because um, if you wish to forget if you wish to forget the worries or the problems in your life, science can give you television, internet, smartphones, alcohols, social media, but it will make you forget about yourself, the soul, and the disconnect with the super soul. So science never touches this subject anything related to non-physical. So it always touches subject related to body, nothing related to spirit, and also ultimately disconnect to the personal world. So what is the solution to solve this real problem of life? Only through spiritual practices you can solve these problems. And based on the instructions of Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita give you the solutions like how we can solve all the real problems of the life in terms of birth, death, old age, and disease. Then we have seen these two examples why spiritual duties give permanent benefits. We have seen two stories, Gajendra and Ajamil. So, Gajendra, in the past life, he was a great king and a very great devotee of Lord Vishnu. He has performed so many spiritual practices, but he was cursed by a rishi. And in this current life, in the body of elephant, when he was in trouble, what he did, he just lifted a lotus flower with his tongue and called out sincerely to Lord Vishnu. And hearing these sincere prayers, Lord Vishnu immediately arrived on the vehicle Garuda, and Vishnu used his Sudarshan Chakra, and the crocodile was killed, and Gajendra was saved. So this is a benefit he carried forward from his previous life, and he got the benefit in the current life, being in a body of elephant. Second example, we have seen Ajamil. Ajamil was a belongs to a very Brahmin family. Since childhood, he has performed so many spiritual activities, chanting, Bhagavad Gita reading, all those things. But after having connection with some um, some lady, he left all the spiritual practices, but at the time of deathbed, he just called his son Narayan, Narayan. And ultimately, the messengers of Lord Vishnu came and helped him and saved him from all the Yamdutas. Some non-spiritual spiritual examples by which we can understand these spiritual duties give permanent benefit. If like someone tells you, you go to a mall, shopping mall, and you shop for hours only and collect many beautiful and expensive things, but at the cashier you must leave everything and walk out empty handed. So suppose somebody give you a condition, you go to the mall, you can pick up anything, but after collecting everything, when you come to the cashier, you have to leave everything and you have to walk out empty handed. So how you will feel? Will you feel great? No, we'll feel frustrated because we wasted our time, energy, and everything. We'll feel disappointed also, and we'll feel very foolish also. So, similarly, it is mentioned this mall is like a material body. We spend a number of years in what? Only in collecting money, relationships, position, property, achievements, and ultimate what happen, even though after we achieve this, we become attached to that. But the cashier, when you ultimately come to the cashier, means at the time of death, at that what happened, you cannot take anything out of this. Means you cannot take your money, house, body, social status, nothing. So everything you have to leave here only, just like leaving all the items at the counter. So whatever energy, whatever the hard work you have put in this lifetime, everything goes on a toss, because at the time of death you cannot take anything. So, what actually goes with you? Only through spiritual credits goes with you. That's why Lord says these spiritual duties give you permanent benefits. Only your spiritual activities which you perform, that will go with you. That's why Krishna says in these words that spiritual progress is never lost. Otherwise, all the material activities which you perform goes or gets waste in this lifetime only. So, what are the lessons we can learn from all these various examples from Gajendra, Ajamil, and this person going to shopping mall? So, a wise person should think very diligently what activities I should perform in this lifetime. So, wise person shop carefully. So, they may focus only on what truly matters. So, in this lifetime, we have to maintain our material needs. That's okay, but we should give more focus to our spiritual activities, because that is a permanent thing which will take to your next life. So you should focus only on the truly things that matters about the spiritual credits which you can take to the next life. Prabhupada writes in the purpose, even a small beginning of such activity finds no impediment, nor can that small beginnings be lost at any stage. Any work begun on the material plane has to be completed, otherwise the whole attempt become a failure. But any work begun in Krishna consciousness has permanent effect, even though not finished. The performance of such work is therefore not at a loss, even if the work in Krishna consciousness is incomplete. 1% done in Krishna consciousness based permanent results. So that's the next beginning is from the point of 2%. Whereas in material world, material activity without a 100%, there is no profit. 2.521, then Bhagavad Gita says about single-minded focus that is needed. So those who are on the path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute in many branch. So in today's time, the real problem which we all are facing in terms of lack of focus and lot of distractions in today's time, like a lot of distraction from various ways, especially from mobile phones, smartphones, intoxications, attachment towards opposite sex, and unnecessary wasting or killing our time in sports, politics, films, music, etc. So, how we can eliminate such distractions and stay driven towards our goal? So our goal is should be spiritual goals. So, some suggestions for ensuring we don't become victim of all these weapons. So, only through spiritual activities, because if you see, all these activities are related to, or finally lack of focus attention related to mind. So spiritual activities, if you perform, it will increase your focus because they train the mind, and focus is nothing but a trained mind. Because if you perform spiritual practices, if you perform spiritual activities, there are so many rules, regulations you have to follow. So all why these rules and regulations are there in spiritual practice, to make you more disciplined, to make you more self-control, and to make you more determination. It is mentioned psychological also. If you are more disciplined, self-control, automatically your willpower and determination increases. Then it will be very easy for you to say no to this all these weapons in terms of time killing on the social media, intoxication, all this thing. So it's just all matter of control mind. So if you perform spiritual activities, that is your goal also. So it will help you to more focus, not only material life, but spiritual things also. And you'll have better control on your mind. 4.22-23. Lord says, men of small intelligence are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommended various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desires of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that nothing is more than this. Prabhupada writes in purport, people in general are not very intelligent, and due to their ignorance, they are most attached to the fruitive activities recommended in the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas. They do not want anything more than sense gratificating proposals for enjoying life in heaven, where wine and women are available and material opulence is very common. Such person have no faith in liberation from material bondage, and they are very much attached to the pompous ceremonies of the Vedic sacrifice. They are generally sensual and they do not want anything other than heavenly pleasures of life. Such bodily happiness is certainly sensual. Therefore, they are those who are purely attached to such material temporary happiness as lords of the material world. So, so in this verse, Lord is saying, men of small knowledge act only for the opulence and enjoyment of the material platform, as it is mentioned in the Karma Kanda section of Vedas. So, in our Sanatan Hindu Dharma, Vedas played a very important role because Vedas are treated as the highest authority, or they are the Pramanas, because Vedas give us all the philosophy which we seen in spiritual thing. So all the root of philosophy is Vedas. Even the source of knowledge is Vedas. Why it is considered as authority with Vedas? Because not Vedas are not written by any person, any human being, but it came directly from Supreme Lord Shri Krishna to Brahmaji. And Brahmaji, who is Brahmaji, is the first living creature in this entire universe. So at the time of creation, Lord Krishna imparted this knowledge in the heart of Brahmaji, and then he passed it to further rishis, and ultimately it was compiled by Vyasadeva, who has given all the Vedas. So if you see these Vedas, so it is broadly divided into three sections. It is mentioned as Karma Kand, Gyan, and Bhakti. So when you talk about Karma Kand, is about the some material activities. It is mentioned the Karma Kanda, like some ritual actions which you perform. When you talk about Gyan section gives knowledge about the transcendental knowledge, like philosophical knowledge. And third is about the bhakti. Bhakti means pure devotion to Lord Krishna. So karma is at the beginning stage, and jnana is the middle stage, and bhakti is the topmost or the final perfection stage. So if we consider as a ladder, so it is a process from bottom to top, by karma being the lowest, jnana and bhakti at the topmost. So this is the elevation ladder that is mentioned in the Vedas. So if you see Vedas addressing both about the life in terms of what dharma we should perform. When you talk about dharma, means what are the righteous activities which you will perform, about the karma, life regulation, everything. But ultimately, Veda also talk about the spiritual liberation, how we can get rid of this material bondage. And when you talk about karma kanda means material benefits. So you use you go to Lord for some material benefits. So you ultimately you are using God and some ritual activities to get some material benefits. We all accept this. Like being a student, we before the exams we always used to visit temple during the exam time, and we always promise the God, if I get pass, I will get good grade. Anything, I will offer you sweets or something else. So you are going to God, but for some material benefits. Similarly, many people they perform a specific puja or they are doing some fasting for what? To get a promotion in the job or to get some visas like USA visas or some people like business people they're donating money to so that the business can grow without any obstacles or you'll find on Tuesday or Saturday people going to the temples, offering oil to Shanidev to remove all the obstacles in their life. So all these things is the karma kanda activities, which is mentioned in the Vedas. Means you perform these activities to some get some material benefits. When you talk about Gyan, transcendental knowledge, it means you are going beyond the material activities, trying to understand spiritual subject in terms of what is my real identity? In Bhagavad Gita, we are discussing what is my real identity. My real identity is soul. Who is Supreme Lord? Lord Krishna. What is my relationship with the Supreme Lord? What should my goal of life? Everything which we are discussing in Bhagavad Gita is the transcendental knowledge, Gyan. And ultimately, when you talk about bhakti, bhakti means your nishkam karma. We are performing all the activities, selfless activities. For whom? For the pleasure of Lord. So Lord becomes our point of centers in our life for all the activities. So different process, different elevation ladders is mentioned in the Vedas. So Lord is saying, men of small intelligence means people who are foolish, who are not very intelligent. They are only attached to the flowery words of Vedas. So what are the flowery words of Vedas? Only to remain at the karma kanda activities, not goes beyond that. Bhagavad Gita will take you to the jnana also, bhakti also. So those who are foolish people, they just struck themselves in the karma kanda level. I perform this activity, I'll get this material benefit. That is my connection with the Lord. I don't want to go beyond that. But Lord is saying you should elevate yourself. You should not just stop at the karma kanda activities. Go to the gyan level and ultimately to bhakti, the topmost. Because if you perform bhakti, that is permanent and that is and through this only you can solve the real problem of life. It means continuous cycle of birth and death. Because in absence of Bhagavad Gita knowledge, many times people misunderstand this ultimate purpose of the Vedas. Because this incomplete knowledge, they think connecting with God for some material benefit, that is spirituality. Actually, that is not. That is a of beginning to come to that platform to understand about Lord or real identity and finally to perform bhakti. Because otherwise they think only perform some ritual activity to get some material benefit and they think there is nothing more than this, but it is not true, it is incomplete. In Bhagavad Gita Lord is saying don't just stop at the karma kanda activities. Like Lord was saying in the previous verses, if you fight you will get benefit, means material benefit. If you die you will go to swarg or you will get the kingdom. So that is at the karma kanda level. So now Lord from 40 verse Lord is started introducing about the bhakti, which is the topmost, um, with the topmost benefit which we can achieve from the Vedas, from the Bhagavad Gita, as a pure devotion to Lord Krishna. So we should try to become more intelligent, not the foolish people. So being intelligent means you should not just attach to the karma kanda activities of Vedas. You should go further, or you should evolve yourself from Gyan and ultimately to Bhakti. 2.44 भोगैश्वर्य प्रसक्तानां थाय पट्य चेतसां व्यवसात्मिका बुद्धि समुदो न विद्यते. So two obstacles for the resolute determination. So if you see all this flow, earlier Lord is talking about karma kanda, then gyan, then bhakti, then focus. So here Lord is saying there are two obstacles to have a full concentration on the spiritual activities. What are the two obstacles? Sense enjoyment, bhoga. Secondly, Aishwarya means material opulences. So Lord is saying those whose mind are deeply attached or those whose minds are completely observed in the karma kanda activities like material enjoyment, opulences, it cannot develop Vyasa Atmika Buddhi means single pointed focus, single pointed determination, and steady devotion. Steady devotion towards what? Bhakti. So it cannot focus on Bhakti Krishna, and because of that, Samadhi is not possible. So Samadhi means steady consciousness, full concentration, mind fixed on Shri Krishna. Prabhupada writes, unintelligent people, when the mind is fixed for understanding the self, it is said to mean samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyment and bewildered by such temporary thing. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy. Enjoying and controlling mentality in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the advanced knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord Rishabdev is telling his sons, like, when a person considers sense gratification the only aim of life, he certainly becomes mad after materialistic living and engage in all kind of sinful activities. He does not know that due to his poor misdeeds, he has already received a body which, although temporary, is the cause of his misery. Actually, the living entity should not have taken on a material body, but he has been awarded the material body for sense gratification. Therefore, I think it is not befitting an intelligent person to involve himself again in the activity of sense gratification, by which he perpetually gets material bodies one after another. Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, 4th verse. So here Lord Rishabdev telling his sons that you should not be completely attached to the worldly pleasures, or you should not just make material goals as your life, like wealth, power, but you should emphasize that these are the temporary things and they are related to body. So ultimately it brings to the misery or suffering. So don't go mad for this. Whatever is required, only do that much. So don't give your 100% full time for these activities. And he stressed the importance of controlling our desires, also material desires, and purifying our mind and seeking liberation. Because in spiritual, we talk about liberation. What is liberation? No more birth and no more birth in this material world, and seek liberation, moksha, rather than indulgence in these worldly gains of money, power, sense gratification. Further in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, 6 chapter, first verse, Prahlad Maharaj is saying, Prahlad Maharaj said, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of the life, in other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service. So, Prahlad Maharaj is again emphasizing on the Bhakti Yoga, that is the topmost. It is mentioned in the Vedas also, giving up all other engagement. The human body is not really achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is a meaningful because in human life one can perform devotional service, because this is the only body among 84 lakh species which can understand our Bhagavad Gita, which can understand our transitional knowledge. Not only understand, but we can perform some activities also. Otherwise, in all other bodies like animals and all those, they cannot understand Bhagavad Gita. They cannot perform in spiritual activities. So Pavan said the human body is very rarely achieved. And although temporary, like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life one can perform devotional service to Lord Sri Krishna. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give you complete perfection. Same the words which we have discussed 2.40, spiritual activities give you permanent benefit. Prahlad Maharaj is saying even a slight amount of sincere devotion can give you complete perfection, means complete benefit. So here, Prahlad Maharaj is emphasizing on the value of human life, that human life is very rare and precious from the 84 lakh species, because only in this form we can understand Bhagavad Gita and we can perform devotional service, spiritual practices. So, priority, why priority of bhakti or devotion? Because devotional service should take precedence over all our worldly engagement, which Prahlad Maharaj is saying. So we should try to keep all of material activities to that is needed, and rest we should try to devote maximum of time for the devotional practice to get this permanent benefit. Let's try to understand in more details about bhoga and aishwarya. So some examples of today's time bhoga and aishwarya, like when mind is uh, completely preoccupied with acquiring, protecting, enjoying these things like social media likes, validations, only focusing about the salary rise, promotions, new cars, new iPhones, money, investment shares, market, parties, shopping, foreign trips. So when our mind is completely preoccupied with acquiring, protecting, and enjoying uh, bhoga and Aishwarya, then there are two things which happen. First, our mind is always restless. We always have experience. Our mind is always restless and stressful, and we have anxieties. Or second option could be we are always satisfied that I'm in a good job, I'm a good educated person, I have a good bank balance, I have a good family, and I will focus on bhakti later. So all these two options, ultimately what it does, it blocks your spiritual progress. It keeps you away from a real self identity. So you'll day in, day out, you just focus on the body related needs. And so, if our heart is always desiring this material enjoyment all the times, then devotion become conditional. Because when devotion become conditional, what happen? I will worship God if He gives me something. So karma kanda activities. I will pray if God gives me success. So that is karma kanda activities. I will chant when life is stable. Many people says, I will take out the time for the bhakti. I will take out time for the chanting, let my job get stable or let my this problem get solved, then I will focus. So I will focus spiritually, or some people say I will focus spiritually now, I will just have complete focus on the earning, I will focus spirituality after retirement. And what happens, so because of this, we people keep our devotion, that is a primary goal of life, being our self real identity, we keep as a secondary. And ultimately we just focus on the karma kanda activities of Vedas, and bhakti becomes a tool to achieve the material benefit, not the goal of his human life. So what we can learn from this, to maintain our body, there are some needs and we have some desires also, it is okay to fulfill, but you should not consider that everything as your life. These are the things mean to run your life so that you can perform on your most important activities, Parmo Dharma, which is the topmost dharma of human being, to perform spirituality or spiritual practices toward Lord Krishna. Focus more on devotional services, bhakti, yoga. So here I stop. So these are points which we have discussed in today's session. Why Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord? Why Guru and absolute need in spiritual life? What is our real self identity, body or soul? Because unless you know this, how you will set the correct goal in your life? Then tolerate. So life is designed as such, world of duality. So why we should tolerate? To achieve some higher goals. Nishkam Karma Yoga. Nishkam Karma is selfless activities which you perform for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. Spiritual duties give permanent benefits. So we have seen many examples how we can, if you engage in spiritual activities, we get the permanent benefit. Karma Kanda and Bhakti Yoga. Then when you see in Vedas, three sections, Karma Kanda activities and ultimately the Bhakti. Bhakti being the topmost. Then we see Bhoga and Aishwarya. If day in, day out, 24 hours, we are just busy or just thinking about material opulences, material enjoyment, then to perform this, our goal of life in terms of devotional service becomes very difficult because we'll be more attached to the material activities. Few announcements. So we have Ekadashi on 22nd of February in the coming week. So you can contact me if you want to get more details how we should follow Ekadashi in terms of what you eat and what activity you should perform. So finally, we can take few questions. So you can unmute yourself. You can put in the chat box also. So we can discuss few questions, or if you have any comments, that also we can discuss. Any questions, you can unmute yourself or you can put in the chat box also. There is a one question I could see from Falguni. I have all the knowledge. Okay, so I understand. Always busy in karma yoga. Okay. So I have all the, I believe you have all the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, but unable to put into action. That's why it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna was also knowing everything, but in that confused state of mind, he is not able to decide what to do, what not to do. So he connected to the Supreme Lord. He surrendered to him. Like we said, we should try to take guidance or direction from the instructions of Bhagavad Gita or the people who are following the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So try to associate with the people who are following the Bhagavad Gita instructions and so begin as small steps, then slowly you become perfect. So what you should do, you should connect more to the spiritual people, or you should read more Bhagavad Gita more frequently. Try to see what are mentioned points mentioned in that, and try to start following that. Thank you for asking. Any other question? Another question is how to know the purpose of life, Prabhu. So we have already covered in today's session. First, you should know what is your real self identity, and based on that, you should set the right goal. So it is mentioned the the real goal, our real self identity is soul, which is part and parcel of Supreme Lord. So the real goal of our life should be to perform devotional service to Lord Krishna. So that should be the purpose of life. Then other question I could see, mind always distract me. Um, um, uh, Falguni, I would say this is not a this is a common problem because we all face this problem. Like mind is not in our control or distract us. See, the only way we can have a control on mind only to the spiritual activities which we perform, and the best method in today's time is the mantra meditation which we do. Because in mantra meditation, what happens? We try to focus not only in chanting but in hearing also. So when you try to control both your tongue and focus on that mantra, it will have give you a better thing to have a better control in your mind. So my advice would be every day take out some time and try to chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So I can tell you in one day itself you will not get the results. You have to keep practicing. But this is the only solution to have a control on your mind. Why the Lord Ganesha to worship first for any rituals? So I'll park this question. We will discuss this in the third chapter when we have a detailed discussion about the Supreme Lord and other demigods. Why Krishna is Supreme Head? I think, Binduji, if you have attended our previous sessions, we have a detailed discussion on that. Why is Krishna the Supreme Head? What is the difference between devotion and attach? What is the difference between devotion and attachment to the Lord? How do I know I am devotee? Devotee attached. Okay. Question is, what is the difference between devotion and attachment to the Lord? And how do I know I'm devotee attached? Good question. So, uh, uh, when you say devotion means you are always thinking, desiring, or engaging all the activities for the Supreme Lord. So, devotion is the path which will make you attached to the Lord. So these two are not different things or contradicting things, they are the complementary things. So when you perform devotion, slowly, gradually, you will have attachment to the Lord. And that is the ultimate goal which you want to have attachment towards the Lord. Akshita, when I try to do something like studying, I keep losing concentration. I believe it is because of my disturbed mind. What should I do? Okay, so when I try to do something like studying, I keep losing concentration. I believe it is because this question I've already answered. How I can control my mind? The best method to control your mind is only through spiritual practices. As I said, the spiritual activity which you perform will have a better control. It will train your mind in such a way that you will be more disciplined and you will be and you will more concentrated on any of the work that we have discussed on the focus part. So how we can be more focused, increase our willpower only through spiritual practices. And then spiritual practices, what is the best method to control mind? Through mantra meditation. As I said, it will take some time, but you will have a better control of your mind. So you just perform these spiritual activities every day, you will get the results. So is it the same? As I said, through devotion only you will get some attachment. So if you are performing any spiritual practices, any devotion, ultimately the result will be you'll be more attached to Lord Krishna. And I have replied most of the questions. So any other questions? You can unmute all if someone wants, he can unmute also and ask the question. Okay, if there is no further question, let's close this by doing mantra meditation. The solution to have better control of mind. So what we'll do, we'll chant this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for some time before we finally close the session. So you all are welcome. You all are free to unmute yourself and we all chant this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Try to be attentive, try to hear this sound of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This is the best way to control the mind. Just focus on that, on each word. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Last three times, so let's fully concentrate on this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you, everyone. So please continue this Hare Krishna chanting every day. Definitely is going to help you to have a better concentration in your studies, in your life, whatever activities you do in your life. It will certainly help you because it is helping so many devotees. In ISKCON, we have seen people have so much better control on their mind only through Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So have faith and perform this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day. And every Sunday we have this opportunity to learn about Bhagavad Gita. So similarly, every day we provide a facility for hearing and chanting about Hare Krishna Mahamantra and Bhagavad Gita. So these are the we do these sessions on Zoom. So someone from our group, he will do this. So it is in morning 5 o'clock till 7:30 for the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Evening time from 8:30 to 9:15. So with this, we stop. So thank you everyone for attending our this Gita course, Wisdom of Gita, and my prayers to Lord Krishna to inspire you, to encourage you to apply whatever we have learned in today's sessions in your practical life. Because unless you start applying in your life, you won't be able to get any benefit out of this. So my humble request, please please revise all the things which we have discussed in today's session, because second chapter is considered a very important chapter. We are discussing so many important lessons out of this in terms of various yogas, in terms of uh, various things, in terms of your real self identity, what is my real goal in life, what are so many misconceptions which we have from the material world, how we can wash that all the misconceptions, focus on our real goal. So and during week, if you need any guidance or and any support, any further comments or questions you have, please feel to contact me, happy to help you. And um and see you, hope to see you all in our next sessions. Till that time, Hare Krishna, and thank you once again for joining the session.